Hello, welcome everyone, and thank you for joining our second monthly Hunger, Nutrition, and Health Action Collaborative webinar. I'm Rachel Forensic with the CDC Foundation. If this is your first time joining us, the Hunger, Nutrition, and Health Action Collaborative is hosting a monthly series of calls to share updates on the progress of the national strategy and the Action Collaborative's priorities, to connect with colleagues, and to celebrate our work and impact. A little bit of housekeeping real quickly. Please feel free to introduce yourself in the chat. We will keep the chat open until the panel starts, and then we'll close it, and then we'll open it back up for the Q&A. But please feel free throughout the session to submit any questions in the Q&A feature. We have people joining from across the country who are working to end hunger and build healthy communities. Our webinar agendas will focus on examples of success, how to advance solutions, and how to build partnerships across sectors. We are now going to open a quick poll that will tell us what types of organizations are represented here today. So I'm going to pause and let you all fill that out for 15-20 seconds. Give you just another 6 seconds. All right, we've hit almost 85%. I think we could go ahead and close the poll, and it's like really, evenly kind of divided between community, neighborhood nonprofits, national nonprofits, academic university, with representation from all the others. So that's awesome. Thanks so much. Sharing that. Numerous commitments for the national strategy are focused on working with local officials and community leaders across the U.S. This webinar is an opportunity to further understand the opportunities to engage with municipal partners to impact hunger and build healthy communities. We see mayors working to address hunger in a variety of creative ways, like advocating and strengthening nutrition programs, creating innovative public-private partnerships, and increasing awareness of the systemic connections that drive food insecurity and poor health. Mayors are also closely connected to the needs of their communities. The Mayors Alliance to End Childhood Hunger is a nonpartisan coalition working in partnership with Save Our Strength. Today, we're joined by 3 guests. We have Paige Cognetti, Mayor for the City of Scranton, Pennsylvania, and Vice Chair of the Mayors Alliance to End Childhood Hunger. Jason Gromley, Senior Director of Advocacy and Government Relations for Share Our Strength, and Maggie Martinelli, Chief Operating Officer of the Scranton Area Community Foundation. Welcome, everyone, and thanks so much for being here. All right, let's get started. Mayor Cognetti, let's start with you. Can you tell us a little bit about the people of Scranton, Pennsylvania, and what led you to prioritize addressing hunger in Scranton and joining the Mayors Alliance to End Childhood Hunger?
Well, thank you, Rachel, for having me on today. Talking about this is really important. That's why I'm the vice chair of the Mayors Alliance to End Childhood Hunger, as you'll hear more about from Jason as well. When I became mayor, it was January 2020. And of course, like everyone else in the world, had no idea that just a short 10 weeks into my tenure, we would be dealing with the pandemic. I was only 12 weeks at that time into being a mom And I have a very vivid memory of sitting on my laptop on Zooms like this while I was continuing to get images coming in, photos from people of the food lines that were snaking around the streets in Scranton. And those lines were so long. There was so much more need than we realized. There was such an instability in the food security here in Scranton, which we knew was there, but it was just a more vast problem than we realized. So along with Maggie from the Scranton Area Foundation, her team, we put together a big food drive to get donations, to get cash really to the food bank so they could get more food out the door in that particularly critical time. It was a great way to kick off a partnership that has continued to now. And joining the alliance was obviously a no-brainer when Share a Strength and No Kid Hungry approached us. At the same time, a couple of years back, the White House under the Biden administration put together a hunger challenge, and I was fortunate to be one of the mayors invited to go do that. That helped us kick off our larger task force here in Scranton. Scranton Area Foundation being a big part of that. We'll get into that more. But hunger it's an issue that touches, unfortunately, everyone in some way, if either as somebody that is being asked to help or somebody who needs the help. We really have got to fight for people to get those resources. And it's something that really brings people together in a way that some other issues tend to be a little bit more divisive. So it's been great for us here in Scranton to bring people together, and I'm happy to join the call today.
Fantastic. Thank you. Well, let's segue to you, Maggie, and have you tell us a little bit about your work at the Community Foundation, how you've come to partner with Mayor Cognetti on ending hunger and improving well-being in Scranton.
Thanks so much, and thanks for having me, and thank you to Mayor for her invitation. The Scranton Area Community Foundation, we're on a mission to just improve the lives of our community. We see a great way of doing that by addressing a lot of the systemic issues that are faced by our community, things like food insecurity, but also things like inequitable access to affordable housing, um, career pathways, making sure people have reliable transportation. So we're really fortunate. We have made some great investments to community impact team, and we saw the critical importance of really partnering with the city, being at the table with a lot of the direct service providers who are really on the front lines of this work as they work to address hunger. And I think we have a really increasingly diverse city with extremely diverse needs, and so to have a diverse group of nonprofits at the table along with having the mayor and the team at the city of Scranton, along with the philanthropic resources we're able to help bring to bear. I think it really makes a big impact on moving this work forward.
Wonderful. Well, I know we're going to get into some more of the partnership area in just a minute, but I wanted to turn to you, Jason, and have you tell us a little bit about the Mayor's Alliance to End Childhood Hunger and why is it important?
Thanks, Rachel. First, I want to express my gratitude to Mayor Cognetti, Ms. Martinelli, and all of our friends at the CDC Foundation for creating this important space so we can highlight the role that mayors can play in work in their own community. So for us at Share a Strength, we have a long history of working with bipartisan leaders in Congress, in the White House, governors, first spouses, state legislators, folks all up and down the political ladder to ensure that kids and families have the food and the resources that they need to thrive. In that work across the whole country, we kept meeting these dynamic and passionate mayors who were so deeply committed to ending childhood hunger, but they needed a place where they could convene and collaborate with their peers so they could learn and share and ultimately supercharge the work that they were doing in their own communities. And out of those conversations, the Mayor's Alliance to End Childhood Hunger was born about 3.5 years ago. And today, under our bipartisan leadership of our chair, Maddie Parker, the mayor of Fort Worth, Texas, who's not here with us today, but she's here in spirit, and of course, Mayor Cognetti, who's our vice chair, the Alliance has brought together nearly 450 mayors from all 50 states and Washington, D.C. And he asked why it's so important to have an organization like the Mayor's Alliance involved in the fight to end childhood hunger. And it comes down to a couple of pretty simple things. The first I'll say is that mayors get things done. Whether they are leading a small town or a major metro area, they're oftentimes the closest to the needs of their constituents, and they have the power to make real lasting change in the lives of those constituents. And then I think the other really big piece is when mayors speak on an issue, especially when it's in a unified and bipartisan way, other lawmakers at the state and federal level, they really listen. And so when it came time to figure out how we were going to engage them, it was a no-brainer for us that they were going to be a powerful force in our fight to end child hunger. And that's why we started the Mayor's Alliance, and why we are really excited about the growth and the leadership that folks like Mayor Cognetti have shown.
Did you say 450 mayors have been
Nearly
involved?
450. It's 444 as of this morning.
Oh, I'll give you 450. We can round up. That's amazing. I also see a bumper sticker. Mayors get things done. Maybe we could brand
Love
that. Maggie, let's come back to you. Why is partnering with the mayor's office on this issue important to you and the foundation?
Yeah, well, we are exceedingly lucky to have Mayor Cognetti leading the city of Scranton. And I'd say that even if she weren't on the call. So she brings with her not only, a wealth of knowledge and intelligence, but she also really takes a broader scope of what this work entails, and brings with it a lot of national expertise, bringing in national resources. At the end of the day, the foundation's work, the cornerstone of the foundation's work is really, convening stakeholders, building trusted relationships, helping to drive innovative solutions together with other partners, such as the mayor. So we're so thrilled to have that partnership. It's beneficial for our community. The mayor obviously has extreme influence, and the city of Scranton as a government entity has a lot of influence. And they also help to add to the capacity of the work. And I think from the community foundation standpoint, we have the agility to facilitate unique solutions. We have access to philanthropic funding. So it really ends up being a really beneficial partnership for really everybody involved.
Great. I hear you saying partnerships really bring different skills to the table that are important.
Absolutely.
The next question I have is really for all of you. And that is, what have you learned through your partnerships that you'd want others to know? Mayor, would you want to start us off?
Yeah, this is something that I talk about when I try recruiting new mayors to join our alliance, and we are going to get to that 450 very soon. It's really important to emphasize that this is a nonpartisan issue. We have such a host of issues around our nation right now that tend to divide us into camps, at least when it comes to our state legislatures or Congress. And hunger is something that really cuts through, and people understand, whether they're elected officials or not, that being hungry is being hungry. And this need really is something that we've just got to address, regardless of political party, regardless of what's happening in the background. So I say that because not only is it helpful in, recruiting mayors, just generally, it's an issue that is safe politically, which I hate the fact that I have to say that, but it's true. But it has helped us here in Scranton cut through the noise on a lot of other issues and task forces too. So the partnerships we've been able to form here with the Hunger Task Force have led to better connectivity, better working relationships throughout some of our other more thorny policy issues. We've been able to cut through some things in the healthcare space, cut through some things on our youth engagement and our violence prevention spaces, because we've kind of wedged in with childhood hunger and then been able to make more progress with those other pieces. So I give that pitch to our mayors because it really, I can speak from experience, especially to newer mayors, that these task forces really work, but it matters where you start. You start with something like hunger, you're going to get more people at the table. You're going to be able to get that rallying cry and that feeling of unity in a way that sometimes if you're starting with something that doesn't feel so easy for people from a political standpoint, you might not get as far as fast. So we really appreciate our Hunger Task Force for coming together. And again, it's had those other benefits to it, and it's been enabled us to do really good work across the board.
That's fantastic. Maggie or Jason, what have you learned?
I'll just piggyback off of a little bit what Mayor said. She really hit the nail on the head. And I think it really just comes down to that relationship building, which is really, it takes time. Building up trust takes time. We have had a tumultuous history of politics in our community prior to the mayor joining us. And so trust is a hard thing to build up. And I think we've spent a lot of time doing that. And so I think my biggest message of what I would want others to know is just be patient, because that's not something that you can really make happen overnight.
Yeah, I'll piggy off that, Maggie. I agree with you wholeheartedly. I think that trust is so important. And while our bumper sticker slogan is mayors get things done, they can't do it alone. And it really does require the commitment and the partnership from community organizations and leaders. And that takes time to build that trust. It also takes resources and it takes a long-term commitment, because I think that we're all in all communities across the country are tired of being the pilot phenomenon. You try something and then you move on to the next big thing. And so that long-term commitment is really important. And we're really excited to be working with 18 mayors from across the country who used the convening of the national strategy as a launch point, as an opportunity to really rally their communities behind an opportunity to end hunger, not just for kids. A lot of them are looking at it much more broadly than just children. But we are supporting those organizations in the community, those task forces, to really make sure that they have the kind of long-term infrastructure and support that they need to make a real difference in their own communities.
Great. Mayor, I'm going to end our panel section with a couple questions for you. And I do think you've addressed this first one a bit, but I do want to bring in both the local and then take it up to a federal level. And the first is really like, what do you want people to know about working with local government? Is there anything that you haven't told us that you want to tell us about what people should know? And then secondly, and I can repeat this again too, is how are you working with mayors across the country on issues at the federal level? Because, I assume, it's a triple layer chess you're playing here. It's not just that you're working at the local level, but you're working with state and federal officials. So can you say more about, what do you want people to know about working with local government? And then how are you working with other mayors to really elevate and work on issues at the federal level?
Sure. So a lesson learned for us with our task force is once we were able to get something in our budget where we had a little bit of skin in the game, as we say, not very much. We were talking $10,000 here in Scranton, but once we were able to put a little bit on the table of our funds, we got a better response and we were able to have more fruitful conversations with philanthropy, with some of our healthcare foundations, in addition to the direct service providers. So there was that piece of it. But what I would say is it's important to remember that the cities, municipalities are not the funding source for things. Our true power is in convening. So I found that small amount in a budget really helped to add to what is our core power, which is convening. So those two things are really important. But when it comes down to the dollars to really get to the goals that we have, and our goal, we've talked for 20 minutes, we haven't even gotten to kind of what we do, but what our task force has done initially as a project is fund a navigator position to help be the hub between all of our food service providers. So we identified over the course of time one of the biggest pain points. People would have, all of a sudden, somebody would have a truck full of produce. How are we going to get that to people? It was upending everybody's day and taking them off of things. The navigator position is meant to be the person that can do that. Everybody else can keep doing their job during the day, and that produce is still getting onto kitchen tables throughout the city and the county. So that was a really important piece to tease that out, us putting the money there. But biggest power is convening. And then on the federal piece, right now is really important. We are encouraging mayors to contact their representatives, their senators, making sure that they understand that SNAP benefits, Medicaid benefits cannot get cut. It will be hurtful across the board in our cities. It will have knock-on effects on our ability to feed people, ability to provide health care for people. That is an immediate thing that we need to be making sure is not on the chopping block as the Congress puts together its tax bill and its budget. In addition to that, we're also from the Mayor's Alliance talking about summer EBT. That's more of a state legislature issue that we're making sure folks understand that state legislatures need to make sure that they're helping with summer feeding programs. And then when it comes to the larger tax bill, we're encouraging lobbying for at the federal level for the child tax credit, knowing that, the child tax credit lifted millions of people out of poverty during the pandemic. We have the proof that it worked. We'd like to see that become permanent. So those three things, SNAP, summer EBT, and the child's tax credit are really important when it comes to advocacy right now. And it's very important here just right now this winter and going into the spring.
Great, thank you. I wanted to just clarify too, Jason, if people wanted to learn more about how the mayor's navigator how that's working and how they're setting that up, I know they could contact the mayor, but she's also really busy. The Mayor's Alliance helps kind of, can help provide that kind of technical assistance in terms of saying, okay, here's what we know about what she's doing. Here's how we can help, like, just support you by giving you this information. Is that true? Anything else you would say? Okay.
Absolutely, Rachel. And I will say our website is very easy, mayorshungeralliance.org. It's a pretty easy one to remember. Feel free to go there. There's a contact form. And I know we'll be sending out some information after this webinar as well that'll have additional ways to get in touch with us.
Awesome. Thank you. Yes, and I'm also seeing in the chat, there's a few other organizations that are also working with the mayor. So mayors are a popular group to work with. Okay, we have a few questions from our audience, and let me start with, we have a question from someone in Cleveland, Ohio, and it is, are any of you working with health systems or healthcare providers to address hunger in the community? Is there any, are you connecting with that audience? Mayor and or, any of you, Jason, if you have any examples either from other cities.
I'll give our quick, and then maybe Jason can follow up. Yes, we have had our healthcare systems at the table from the beginning of our task force. And they have any number of programs that they kind of already ran that we're encouraging. And then their philanthropies are helpful in us funding this navigator position. So that is absolutely the right track. That the healthcare piece is super important in this conversation and effort.
Yeah, I'll just add on there. I don't think that there's a community in the country where healthcare providers and payers don't have an opportunity and an interest in helping to move this forward. I know a lot of our mayors are working very closely with them, and those that aren't, it's one of the first things we recommend that they reach out to, one of the first groups in the community.
Great. Can either of you say anything about food policy councils and what they do? Do you have a food policy council in Scranton? And I'm sure can you say a little about that for the audience?
I do. Yeah. So actually the county food policy council had started kind of just in the years before our task force, but it wasn't formalized. They didn't have an entity. Our task forces helped them organize better. And the food policy council is actually the vehicle where the navigator sits. So Maggie at the Scranton Area Foundation, they're helping us as one of the funders of that. The Food Policy Council's entity now rests at the foundation. The dollars go there, and the foundation is able to help them structure that in a way that has gotten them off the ground in a more formal way, which has been great. So yeah, Food Policy Council is wonderful. And we continue to talk about how, food hunger knows no boundaries, right? You might live in the city of Scranton, but you work in Lackawanna County, or your kid goes to school in a different borough, right? We need to chop down these borders on this front. So it's city versus county. It's all hungry people we want to make sure get fed. So the Food Policy Council has been a great vehicle to help address it.
And I think it's a great opportunity too for, as a community foundation, when I talked a little bit about the agility, is that we are able to have a fund underneath us, so they don't have to necessarily go out seek their own 501c3, another organization. We can help serve in that role, and also kind of takes hopefully some of the competitiveness away from who's going to get these dollars, who's going to manage it. We can help provide that kind of intermediary role to make sure everybody is ultimately the beneficiary of this support and the work that's being done.
Fantastic. Okay, obviously 20 minutes is not a long time and not enough time. I want to make sure that we have the Mayor's Alliance website, that it gets put into the chat. If it hasn't already, I'm sure it will. And they know how to contact you. I really, really want to make sure that when mayors get things done, start showing up in bumper stickers and t-shirts, like, give me a little bit of credit for that one too. I mean, I think Jason, you said it, but I think it's a thing. So this is fantastic. I wish we had more time to talk. This is great. Diane is saying that the chat is back open. If people want to also put some items in the chat, they can definitely do that. We are just almost at time, and I really want to thank everyone who has submitted questions ahead of time and in the chat. I know some of those questions have been answered. Really want to also thank you, Mayor, Maggie, Jason, so much for joining us today, for your time, for all you're doing. Can't wait to hear, how things progress, the great things that are going to happen. Just want to remind everyone that please join us Wednesday, March 19th. At the same time, when we're going to be joined by representatives from Kaboom and their partners in Prince George County, Maryland. So save that date and register at impacthunger.org. And then lastly, a survey is going to pop up when you leave the meeting, and please take a moment to fill that out. We love to get feedback. Let us know about today, what would be helpful to have in future webinars, and to hear from the Action Collaborative. So again, thank you so much to our panelists. Greatly appreciated, and I hope you and the whole audience have a great rest of your day today. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you, Rachel.